The topics are what is currently happening in our local real estate market, the top 5 things you must know before listing your house, understanding the role of title and escrow, and facts and myths about selling your house. So, as I mentioned, I've been doing this a long time, and it doesn't really matter if we're in the middle of a pandemic or if it's a hot buyer's market or hot seller's market. The most common question I get every day is, how's the market? And so this has been a little bit of a different year, challenging year. But I will tell you, even with the COVID-19, real estate is really back in business. When we first, when the pandemic first hit us, everything was shut down. Our offices were shut down. We all worked strictly from home, photographers or inspectors in the house. But it really didn't take long for them to start giving us a little bit back at a time. And now, of course, photographers, inspectors, anything that we need to do for marketing that home is available to us. Plus, most of us agents, we've been doing online marketing through social media and webinars and stuff for really quite some time, long before the COVID-19 hit. There are definitely some protocols that we follow, which includes wearing a mask, hand sanitizers, and just as of yesterday, it was kind of exciting. We are now able to do open houses, so this really is kind of exciting. But no, real estate is back to business. Again, we do maintain the same protocols that we need to, but we're all working away. So the first week of every month, we do get a press release from the multiple listing services that just kind of tells us what happened the previous month. And usually that happens, the the 4th or 5th, 6th. But I checked again this morning. They haven't uploaded the latest information. I will tell you that as we are out and about and we're looking at properties and stuff all the time, we are in this same trend. But as of their last press release, they did say that the largest monthly number of new listings during July since May of 2019. So we have been getting more and more listings. But there are also a lot of demand from home buyers, and inventory is still really, really low in comparison where it should be or what we're used to. In addition, over our prices on those sales, which include single family and condominiums, have jumped up 12.8% from just 12 years ago. So even through all of this pandemic, market is still really good. The challenge again is the lack of inventory. We've seen an uptick in the number of listings in King and Snohomish County, but still well below what we need to meet the volume of buyers right now. And this is why we are getting, I'm sure that you've been hearing that we get a lot of multiple offers and stuff. And here, so sellers benefit from the highest medium home price while buyers take advantage of the lowest interest rates on record. So what this is really telling us is that it is such a great market for both buyers and sellers. It really is an unusual situation. Buyers are benefiting because there is low inventory, and so the sellers have low inventory, and buyers are able to take advantage of incredible interest rates, and I mean the lowest that they've ever been. And so that's why they are out in droves. And so this is a really, really great market for both buyers and sellers. This is a little graph that shows, I don't know if you guys can see the whole thing. So this is from Alan Pope and Associates. And can you see this little area right here, right at the end, where it shows that you've got the blue line is inventory and the red line is net pending sales. And so what this is showing is that the net pending sales is actually higher than the inventory. And so this is why we have this unusual market where there are many more buyers out there looking for than there are properties available for them to purchase. So it's an unusual market. So this shows all of King County, and the Northwest Multiple Listing Service, what they do is that they break up the counties into smaller sections. And so this is all the different sections and a map of the entire King County. The total listings for King County is down 26.72%. That's really pretty low. However, I think that we're in a little bit of a shifting market because because most of the people here are coming from Bellevue or they're living in Bellevue. I broke it down into even smaller. So we've got area 520 and 530. So area 520, which is all of this, is west of 405. That is up 2.7%. So this is telling me that sellers are starting to feel more comfortable about putting their houses on the market. I mean, they're ready to take advantage of this incredible market. And then here, the 530, which is east of 405, it's even up a little bit more. And so it's kind of unusual because Bellevue is actually getting on board more than other places, the vast majority of the places in King County. So we're starting to see a little bit of a shift here, giving us one. So this is another report, and this shows, this is just for Bellevue only. The median prices sold in 2019 was $1,121,000, and September of 2020 was $1,250,000. So as you can see, it still is up 12% over the same time last year. And even through this pandemic, really there has been no huge price drops at all. Of course, we have some seasonal things, and this is when the virus just first started and stuff. But still, it's a very, very strong market, even through all that we've been experiencing this last year. This is where it gets really difficult. It's strong market, prices are still really, really great, but we are down 63% for overall monthly supply. So what this is actually, it just kind of shows if there were no other listings that came on the market, it would take like around a month, less than 30 days, or I think it's right at about 30 days or a little bit more, for all of those properties that are on the market to be sold. If nothing else came on, it would take, because there are so many buyers out there wanting to purchase the homes. So this is a really, really great time. And I know that some people have been a little leery because everything that's been going on. And my hope that this has kind of relieved some of that fear, because it's a great time. Does anybody have any questions before we move forward? Not yet? So then I want to just kind of go over, the 5 things that you must know before selling your house. Of course, know your hyper local real estate market. What's happening in Bellevue is a lot different than what's happening in Des Moines. What's happening in this community of Bellevue is going to be different than this community of Bellevue. You really want to take a look at what's happening in your immediate neighborhood. Know who and what's on title. And we're going to talk a little bit more about title and escrow here in just a little bit. Know that your house does not have to be perfect in order to sell it. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that. Know the expenses associated with selling your property. And this is going to help you budget and plan for your move. And then this is the thing that I think is most important is know that you're not alone. There's a lot of help and resources out there for you, and we kind of help you through every single step along the way. So it can be a kind of scary time, especially for seniors. There are a lot of seniors I've worked with that have been in their house for 30, 40, 50, and I even sold one last year that was, she'd been there for 60 years, you know. And so when you've been in the same house for a really long time, you know, it can be kind of challenging from everything is what are you going to do with all of your stuff to how am I going to pack and move and, you know, in addition to actually the selling market. So anyhow, this is some things that we're going to chat about here. So the first thing is know your hyper local real estate market. And the very best way to do this is to get a comparative market analysis. And so what is a comparative market analysis? A comparative market analysis, it's a report that we provide that is specific for you and your house. We would come and take a look at your house, take a look at, you know, verify the size of the house with what they have on title or the public records, because sometimes, especially people that have lived in their house for many, many years, there have been some alterations or changes, or they've expanded the house, and sometimes, you know, what is on the public records is not the same thing that is in reality. So we're going to want to come and make sure that that information is correct. Sometimes you add a bathroom or you take out a wall and expand, take 2 bedrooms, make them into one. So we're going to want to come and take a look at it. And then we put together this report that is comparing your home to very similar homes in the same area. Condominiums are a little bit easier because a lot of times they have the same floor plan. There's more apples to apples comparables in a condominium. What happens with a condominium for the most part is if there's been any updating within that community, that particular unit, or if it has views. You know, condominiums are kind of funny because they have, one might have a really, really great view, but then this one, same size and same floor plan, doesn't have a great view. So those are some things that we would be doing to help really narrow down, you know, something that we very. The purpose of a comparative market analysis is to come up with a realistic price in order to sell your home. And so that's that's what we're doing here. And even if you're not ready to sell your home, let's just say you're just preliminary work, doing your homework, and you're not considering selling until next year, that is perfectly fine, because we will update the market analysis when it gets closer to. If we did a market analysis now and you didn't sell until next spring or next summer, we would definitely want to do an update or review of that, because market changes. You don't know what's going to happen 6 months from now. It could actually be a totally different market. But this is a pretty good indication of where we are now to help you plan and prepare. And here again, this is just such a really strong market. If you have an opportunity to take advantage of it now, this is the time to do it. So the comparative market analysis is going to show you similar homes to yours that are active listings, pending listings, and sold listings. We give the most weight in price for those that have sold, because this is tried and true. We know what buyers are willing to pay for. Active listings, we don't know what the final sell price is going to be until it actually closes. And sometimes maybe they've overpriced it. Maybe they've underpriced it. We don't know until that particular property actually closes. Do we know? But it is a good information about our competition. What is our competition out there? And we want to be able to put you in a position to be better than the competition. And then pending sales. Here again, we don't know what the pending sales are actually going to close for until it actually closes. Pending sales mean buyer and seller have come to an agreement. They have worked out price and terms for the sale, but it's in transaction. It hasn't closed yet. And so the other thing about pending sales is that it tells us what direction the market is going. If we have several of the pending sales that have, had went from active to pending within the first week, that tells us that it's a really hot market. And a lot of times it's happening within the first 2 or 3 days. But it can be if it's been sitting on the market for a long time before it goes pending, that means that the market is actually slowing down a bit. And so we might want to adjust our price accordingly. So we take a look at a lot of that. And then we come up with a price range. This is a realistic price range of what we think that your house is going to sell for. So fair market value of your property is determined by what a buyer is willing to pay and a seller is willing to accept. So the buyer, once we come up with a realistic listing price for your home, I consider the listing price kind of a marketing tool, because we're putting it out there on the market saying this property is available for sale and this is a realistic selling price. Um, Buyers are the one that are actually going to present an offer. And sometimes the offer is high. In this market, most of the offers are high. Sometimes they're a little bit low. Maybe they're testing the seller. But it's what the buyer is willing to present to the seller, saying, I'm willing to purchase your home for X amount of dollar. And then the seller can accept it or reject it, and so it comes to mutual agreement. Sometimes there's a little bit of negotiating back and forth. And so that's where the negotiating part comes in. So what we're really finding now is we want to be able to price it at fair market value or even a little bit lower. If we do it a little bit lower, that's going to get more people through the home. And this is where the prices generally escalate up. If we price it above the fair market value, there is a chance it will sell, but it's almost like looking for the needle in the haystack. A lot of times homes that are overpriced stay on the market for a really long time. And in most cases, what happens is that the people start wondering, oh my gosh, what's wrong with the house? It's been on the market for so long. And then you can pretty much expect to get lower offers. And so you tend to get even less than what it would sell for, but actually came on the market at an appropriate selling price. So what actually influences the home value? So of course it's going to be the immediate neighborhood. This is going to be homes that are similar to yours in size and amenities and condition and everything. And then it's also like what's happening in the neighborhood. I mean, is your home, is it a view home? Is it a waterfront home? Is it close to schools? How about airplane? Do you have airplane noise that impacts that home? So we're going to take a look at the neighborhood in that way as well. Size really matters. We're not going to be comparing a 2,000 square foot home to a 6,000 square foot home. We actually will view home, narrow that the comparable homes down to those that are 20% lower in square footage and 20% higher in square footage, and we can make price adjustments accordingly. But size definitely is a factor. Condition is a factor. Does it need to have a lot of repairs? And when I go through and take a look at a house, I look at, the home and how well it is presented, but I'm also asking questions about things that I cannot see. And usually that's going to be um, system-wide or foundation things like roof, foundation, plumbing, electrical. If the home is very old, how long has it been since these things were updated, if they've been updated? Those are some things that can impact the value of the home. Have there been remodeling or repairs? Did you have a new kitchen put in 20 years ago, or were the bathrooms updated? That type of things. Landscaping does play a factor. There's some very elaborate landscaping in there that can help to improve the value of the home. And then, of course, market trends. This is what we're looking at right now with the really, really low inventory and the really, really low interest rates. So this is just the market trends. Which direction is the market going? Jobs, jobs. Now, right now, it's kind of, we hear a lot about people not having jobs, but there are a lot of people out there that do have jobs. And the people that do have jobs are wanting to take advantage of those really low interest rates. And of course, we've talked about this a lot. Interest rates, they've never been lower. They've never been lower. It's just is pretty incredible. And the thing about interest rates is, if you have a really low interest rate, you have more buying power. You can afford more for a home than if interest rates are high. And so that's a really key thing. So that's why buyers are able to afford more now than they could when interest rates were high. Oops, I'm going to back up here. Let me go back. Let me go back just a second here. Oh, so the other thing is know who's on title. So when we first get a listing, one of the first things we do is open title. We go to the title company, we say we've got an interested seller, let's open title on the property, and we're going to find out everything we can about that property and what's on title. How is the title held? Is it in a trust? Are there, and if so, who are the authorized signers on it? Excuse me. Sometimes there's a power of attorney or personal representative, executors involved. We know how to know, who it has the authority to sell the property. Sometimes there's a deceased spouse on title. And of course, liens or judgments on the property, those are going to show up on title. Liens are going to be like a mortgage, if you have a mortgage, or a personal line of credit on your home. Those are some things. Occasionally, we come up with judgments or tax liens. There's a lot of things that will show up on title. And then, and most of that doesn't have anything to do with the value of the home. But some things that can impact the value would be easements, if there are easements. And sometimes, I've seen properties, they have big piece of property, but they have got steep slopes or something, and then if they were going to do any building on it, they would have to have some setbacks and stuff. We want to take a look at the property as a whole. And the more information we can get at this point, the better. We want to get the necessary paperwork in order when the home comes on, so that we don't scramble at the last minute and avoid delays. If there's a deceased spouse on title, the escrow company is going to want to have a will or a lack of probate affidavit. I think almost every transaction today, every home seller does need to fill out an identity affidavit, making sure that you are who you are. So there's a lot of stuff that we're going to want to get up front in order to make the transaction smoother on the end. And it's really important to do that sooner rather than later in this hot market because things are moving so quickly. It is not unlike, I mean, it's not unusual for something to close, within 30 days. Although the thing that's kind of kicking us up now is that there are so many refis out there that appraisals are way late. And so sometimes things are delayed and we have to anticipate that or work through that or really stay on top of that because the appraisers and stuff are a little bit late. But for the most part, things are still moving really quickly and are selling, within 30 or 45 days at the latest. King County, we did get a notification from King County because there are so many closings right now and so many refis going on right now that they can no longer guarantee the same day closing. So we just have to plan and prepare for that. So sometimes it's the next day when it actually closes and gets funded. But we stay on top of that. Okay. Know that your house does not have to be perfect in order to sell it. And this is an actual home that I sold. It was a hoarder's home. And of course, very, very few homes are actually look like this. But I think it's really scary for people or when they go to lovely retirement communities and say, oh my gosh, I just love this place and I want to move in here. And then they go home and they look around and go, oh my gosh, what am I going to do with all this stuff? And they get totally overwhelmed. And we want to take that, first off, take the fear away from you. This particular gentleman, I loved him dearly. I helped him buy a condominium, and he lived in this condominium for 2 years before he would allow me to come and take a look at his home. His wife was the hoarder, and she had died 4 years before that. But he was so embarrassed and he did not want to let anybody in the house. And it was a really sad situation. And I just want to tell you that we've seen it all and we're here to help. That's what we're here to do. And there's a lot of different ways that we could manage this. This particular home was a little, it did need to have a ton of repairs and it was just quite frankly too dangerous to let people in and wander the home. We ended up selling this house as is, contents and all. Of course, we did go through and I had appraisers come through to appraise all of the personal property items that were of value. And, we did have this, she had tons of dolls. So we had doll appraisers come in and take a look at things. So we would have a really good idea of the value of the stuff that was in there. And then, of course, what it would cost to haul it all away, or what it would cost to have somebody come in and actually set up estate sales. This particular, because it had sat for so long, most of the stuff in there was really damaged because there was so much really light, what do you call it, dust, just tons of dust around. And so it was really difficult for people to walk through without having a mask on. My point with all of this is um, you don't have to worry. We're here to help you through all of that. And if you do have some things of value, we have resources available for you to help liquidate all of the property. Our goal is to help you in every way that we can on this. So when during the consultation, we're going to talk to you about selling your property as is. It doesn't even have to be a hoarder's home. Sometimes they need to have a roof, or sometimes they, are perfect and don't need anything at all. If they do need to have repairs, and some people say, well, shouldn't I remodel here? We're going to talk to you about the costs associated with the remodel that you have in mind and what you could really recoup when you sell it. So it's on a case by case basis, and we're going to talk and walk you through the whole process. But the key thing is not to be worried. Just know that there are people that can help for that. Now, given that, a clean, well-staged home is going to sell faster and it is going to sell for more money. And largely because, we want to go in there and make the house or the condominium look as beautiful as possible for the photographs, because that's how people are buying homes these days. They go online and sometimes they're looking at a whole string of houses and you have just seconds to capture their attention. And so they're going to be much more interested in a home that looks inviting, looks clean, ready to come in. And if we go this route, we've got resources to come in and help clean. We've got stagers to stage. We've got carpet cleaners. We have people that can come in and prepare the home for sale. So when it hits the market, that's why it's going to look better than the competition. And in most places, a clean and well-staged home is going to sell for more money. Does anybody have any questions? No?
Looks like we might have one question trying to come online there. One
Yeah.
second.
What is that? What can I answer for you? I'm gonna go back. Questions?
Okay. I thought you might take questions at the end, but
I'm happy to do that too. I just wanted to answer questions if we're moving along here. What question do you have, Beverly?
okay, I live in a townhome community.
Okay.
And the HOA has regulations that you cannot have an estate sale or garage sale of any kind whatsoever.
Yeah.
And that really upsets me because I probably would need to downsize a good bit before moving. And so you have said that you have ways of doing this. You know people, stagers and cleaners and carpet, and also I presume ways to list and sell, even though it's risky to have one person, a man, say, come into your house if you're alone in there trying to show it. So I guess, how do you get around this? I mean, do other people have these concerns?
Yeah, absolutely. And so that's a really good question. So my question for you is, some people, and you don't have to actually answer this. Some people are in a position where they can move first, be happy, be settled, be in their new residence, and then sell their home. That is an ideal situation. That way you don't have strangers coming in and looking while you're living there. Some people don't have that luxury. And if you don't, then we do have ways to, show it. If you have a lot of things in your house, and we might need to, in a lot of cases, we have to thin that out a little bit by taking out some of the furniture, but maybe not all of it. If you're still living there, we're not going to come in and totally stage your house, but we will consult with you about what pieces should come out just to make the flow a little better, or to make it look a little bigger, or just, be easier for people to visualize themselves in the past. So I do have resources of people. You're right, condominiums are a little bit different. They're little bit different on a lot of ways. But some of the people I have, they will do like online auctions.
Yes.
It's kind of like eBay or something like that, but it's local. And so there are downsizing companies that I work with that will come in and actually take photographs of things, post them, and do an online auction. So yeah, we can definitely work around that. So those are really good questions. And I think that that is for like when we come to do a consultation with you, because everybody is going to be a little bit different.
Mhm.
In here
Thank you.
again, we do have personal property appraisers that I just absolutely love. If you got some great artwork or jewelry or something like that that are really, you don't want to put into an estate sale. When you do an estate sale or an auction, the purpose for those is to just liquidate them as soon as possible. Estate sales is kind of like come in and get everything out of there within a weekend. Or same thing with the auction, they'll take pictures and then they have things, so it's to liquidate your stuff. But sometimes you have some things that are more valuable that really needs to be looked at by an expert who knows it. One of the guys that I work with, he does kind of like a little almost like antique roadshow type stuff where they actually do um, research whatever it is and help find avenues in which to sell some of your more valuable things. But
Okay.
that's a really good question.
I have another question for you before we move on, if I may.
Yeah.
The question is, I'm curious, what are the main reasons why pending sales fall through sometimes and then go back onto the market? And also, is a sale more likely to fall through at a various price point? Um, and lastly, how difficult is it to clear your home of unwanted furniture right now due to the limitations surrounding coronavirus and possibly the donation centers?
Those are both really, really good questions. So pending sales and there's a lot of reasons why a sale may fail. Um, we will do everything possible to make sure that the buyer is well qualified to purchase your home. When somebody presents an offer, we're going to require that they also have a pre-approval letter from the lender. And we call the lender, we talk to the lender, and we find out as much as we can. Now, given that, the reason how come a sale will take so long, most of the time has to do with the lending process. Because even though somebody goes to a lender, they have given them all of their information and they are approved for their loan, the lender goes through and verifies everything, verifies income, verifies assets. Sometimes they sometimes they have spousal support that they hadn't figured in, or, so they go through this verification process. I did have two sales fail earlier this year because the buyer lost her job, and those things do happen. You think that everything is all great, but then you go in and all of a sudden you're laid off, so that can happen. Another reason or common reason that pending sales will come back on the market is after the inspection process. And so the inspection is paid for by the buyer, and the buyer will come through, have an inspection. I will tell you, it doesn't matter if it's brand new construction or if it's a 100-year-old home, there are always going to be things that come up on the inspection. And most of the times we can negotiate through that. Um, it is something that maybe the seller is not aware that there is a problem, or maybe they just buyer and seller just have to come together with an agreement. Sometimes they can't come together with an agreement after the inspection, and then the sale will fail and it'll come back on the market. So yeah, so those are a couple of the reasons why. Did I answer that question? So that was a pending sales. And then, clearing out the unwanted stuff. There are a lot of donation places out there. Sometimes we use a combination of donation places. There's a company called dolly.com, which I love, and I've used them a lot. for the muscles. Now they have restrictions on what they can and can't do, but you can hire muscles, you can hire guys that will come and do it. A lot of the donation places are either not coming to get the items, and if they do come to get the items, they will be restricted to not go in the building. And so dolly.com will bring things down to the building, and then the donation company will take it away. So it just really depends on what it is that we're doing. And these are things I'd love to chat with you about during a personal consultation so that we can talk through what your specific needs are. Did that answer the questions?
I think that answered the question mostly. Yeah, there has been another question that popped up somewhat similar to that. And it just basically says, how do we ensure repair people have good procedures related to COVID so that they can still come into their home while they're living there?
Very, very good question. Yeah, so most of them, it's, you don't have to ask them. They already have, if they're professionals, they have those COVID policies in place. In fact, they will send to us, hey, if we're coming to your house, we need to make sure of these things. I think it's really great that we can now have 5 people in the house at a time. That way, agents can be there to kind of monitor the situation. And not only that, we only hire or on your behalf people who are licensed, bonded, and insured. And so these are professional people. Now, there have been times where, like, I have used painters and things that are not necessarily licensed, bonded, insured, but I have had them in my own home as well as other people's homes. Kind of depends on what the repair work is. Obviously, if you're going to repair a furnace, you need to have somebody who is certified and licensed for that. And we would make sure that and provide our list of standard items that they need to do during the COVID-19.
Thanks, Mary Kay. We can go ahead and continue.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, so the next thing we want to talk about is know the expenses associated with selling your property. If you're going to sell your property for $1 million, you're not going to put $1 million in your pocket. And so one of the things that we do provide for you during the consultation is an outline of your estimated seller's net proceeds so that you know what your expenses are. And this is really going to help you budget and plan for your move. And so, and condominiums are a little bit different than houses, and townhome is very much like a condominium because of homeowners association dues. A lot of times, condominiums are going to have additional charges for move in and move out fees. You would need to be able to provide for the buyer a resale certificate, which includes all the rules and regulations, the bylaws, the minutes to the meetings, the financial records of the homeowners association. So they know that when they're going into a place that it is solid, and it's not going to have, they're not going to be expecting some special assessments or anything like that. So there are additional fees for homeowners associations, and we go through that. There's also a questionnaire that we do have for the homeowners association to help provide all that information. So know your numbers, real estate fees. I know people sit there go, oh my gosh, that's a lot in real estate fees. But we do break down what all of those, what comes out of all of those fees. Real estate usually do pay for the staging consultant or light staging. If the whole house is staged by a professional stager, that is the responsibility of the seller, but we get those costs up front for you. all the professional photography, the drones. Sometimes we have some photoshopping done on those. These are all expenses that realtors pay for out of the commission. Advertising online and off, if we're going to do some social media marketing, all of those Facebook ads and whatever, that is all covered in it. Um, Sometimes we have showing agents to show your property. So anyhow, so it kind of outlines what all of the expenses and stuff are. And then of course, if you have a mortgage or if you have a personal line of credit or some liens that need to be paid off, that would come out of the proceeds. So just so that you know that, this is another thing about real estate commission. A lot of people don't know. When you sign a listing agreement, you're signing the listing agreement between yourself as the seller and the company that the realtor works for. And it's not really work for, because the vast majority of the realtors out there are independent contractors. Our license, like my license, is held at the Keller Williams office, but I'm an independent contractor working on their behalf. And so the listing agreement is going to say the commission is going to be paid to the company, and then the company will pay a percentage of that commission to the independent contractor. And it can vary between company to company as to what that split is. Um, we don't get paid a dime until the property sells, until it closes, until you have your proceeds in your pocket. That's when we get paid. And so all of the work that we do up front is with the anticipation that we're going to get paid. Okay, so yeah, so additional percent. So yeah, so the percentage that the company holds back from the commission, that pays for the office and the supplies and the administrative staff and the printing machines and that type of stuff, just to run the business. And then there's an additional fee as royalty to the company. And so like we would pay a royalty to Keller Williams, or when I was at Windermere, we paid a royalty to Windermere. We pay additional funds for the privilege of using their name and operating under their business. So, and this is a really good thing. In most cases, agents, we pay for our own transportation, insurance, marketing materials, technical services, and each realtor pays about 30 to 40% for the cost of doing business. So I know it seems like it's a big number and it's a lot of money for that realtors get paid, but by the time it gets broken down to, it's not as much as you think. Now, buyers in most cases do not pay for the commission. They have a whole set of other expenses. However, this can be negotiated, and it really depends on if the buyer's agent has have a signed buyer's agency agreement. And so it's kind of like, so sellers have listing agreements, buyers have buyer agency agreements. And so you are representative, you are represented by somebody who's just representing you, and the buyer's agent is just representing the buyer. Okay. Okay, so this is know that you're not alone. When we were talking about the hoarder and everything in there, your real estate agent, I seriously consider myself a personal project manager for my clients, and we end up being best friends. We do have a really close relationship. Never ever hesitate to ask for questions or ask for help. If you need painters or you need an estate sale or handyman, chances are we have some resources available for you to help. And so it's a personal project manager is how I kind of take a look at it. but you are not alone through this process. And the other thing I want to tell you, I think that the most important part is communication. Having a really strong communication back and forth so that you know what's going on at all times, and what appointments need to be made, and what services need to be done, and what escrow company is going to be doing, and when your signing appointment is going to be. We are your primary contact person for all of those communications. And we had kind of touched on this a little bit earlier. The most common concern people have when preparing the home is, what am I going to do with all my stuff? And so this is why we have such a strong relationship with move management companies. And they will help you go through your property. Sometimes you're going to be giving it to your children or friends or family members, or donating it, or some of it's just going to go to the dump. You have to determine what are all of these things. Then they will actually pack and move. And some of the move management companies that we work with will actually set you up in your new home. They will put the silverware in the drawers. They will make your bed so that it is truly a seamless transition. And that's our goal, is to make it as easy on you as possible. So this is my invitation to you is, we talk a lot about this because it is very different from one person to another person, their needs. We listen to what your specific needs are, and we mold our services around you. I do invite you to contact me, and we'll put together a listing consultation today. It's absolutely free. We can do this nowadays. We can do this in your home, in my office, and we can also do it online. What is ever going to be easiest for you, we're happy to do that. Of course, for me, I do like to know as much about your house as possible, and a tour of the home is often nice. And if that doesn't work, we can certainly talk through that, and however we can work with you. Okay, understanding the role of title and escrow. So title and escrow, we talked about, one of the first things we do is pull title right up front, because we not want to know as much about that property as we can, and especially anything that's going to impact the value, because that's going to impact what we list the property for. But title and escrow work in conjunction with one another. And the title company will clear clouds on the title, and that's going to be like your mortgage or your line of credit or anything that cleans it up so that when it does transfer over to the buyer, it's free and clear. And so the buyer is going to need that. Escrow is a neutral third party company. They primarily collect money and distribute money. And they take all of their instructions from the purchase and sales agreement that we as realtors have helped you put together. So we have mutually accepted terms, price for that come up on the purchase agreement. And then once the escrow company gets that purchase agreement with all the terms and conditions on it, they're going to work with the lender, and they will put together a settlement statement. And this settlement statement is going to be similar to and much more detailed than the estimated net seller's proceeds sheet that we can provide. But they're going to make sure that the taxes are paid, the prorated taxes, the excise taxes, any of the liens or encumbrances on the property. So they're pretty good people to know. They prepare the settlement statement and for the final signing. And I love working with some of the title companies out there that will actually set up signing appointments wherever you want to sign. You could go downtown and sign, you could sign in my office and sign, or you could sign in your home. They will be happy to send a notary so that we can make that as easy for you as possible. So, though we talk a little bit about facts and myths about selling your home. Does anybody have any other questions before we move on? No? Okay. So the property selling price is set by the seller. We touched on this a little bit earlier, that the selling price is actually set by the buyer. The seller will set the listing price, but once everything is all said and done and buyer and seller have come to a mutual agreement, it's really the buyer that sets the selling price. It's what they are willing to pay for the property and what a seller is willing to accept for it. Overpriced home leaves extra room for negotiation. A lot of people think that, and that is just not the case. Overpriced homes tend to stay on the market longer, and oftentimes will get less for their home than if it come on properly priced to begin with. So pricing portion of this is pretty important. Longer the market time, the better off. So here again, if it's on the market for a really long time, then buyers sit there and say, oh my gosh, what's wrong with the house? And they're going to come in with a lower offer. Quick offer means that the property is priced too low. With this rapidly moving market, you know, people can expect that it's going to sell quickly. But here again, what's going to happen is consider the listing price kind of like a marketing tool. We're presenting it out there and making sure that it is well exposed. It's marketed a lot. There's a lot of people are going to see the property. We do marketing online and off, international marketing. You're going to get a lot of exposure on their home and hopefully get a lot of interested buyers and escalate that price up. Can I guarantee that you're going to get an escalated price? Nope, I can't. But it is something that we work towards. You can completely depend on online valuations. So an online valuation is like Zillow. I love Zillow. I have to tell you, I love Zillow. There's a lot of really good information, but pricing is not one of them because they do not see the properties. They cannot do the market analysis like realtors can. And a lot of times their evaluation is way off. I've seen them as much as 40% off. So just kind of take those with a grain of salt, but it's something that you just really can't depend on. Home improvements pay for themselves. Some do. Some home improvements will really add value to your home where others won't. And I'll tell you, the most home improvements that pay for themselves are street appeal. Sometimes that's painting the front door, adding potted plants on the porch, having the lawn freshly done. Those kind of things really do pay for themselves. I really caution people about putting too much money into the home because a lot of times they will overspend, and the home improvements are a lot of times for the enjoyment of the homeowner. But given that, I'll tell you, paint and carpet goes a really long ways. Paint and carpet makes a big difference, and really relatively inexpensive when you're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars for a home. Sometime investing in paint and carpet is a good thing. But that's a case-by-case basis, and that is just something that we would talk about during our consultation. And just in review, what we do today, we talked about what's happening in your local real estate market, how important that is. Top 5 things that you must know before listing your home. Understanding the role of title and escrow, and facts and myths about selling your home. I hope that was good information for you. Does anybody have any more questions?
Mary Kay, thank you so much. I'm going to open it up now just for any last minute questions. If anybody has questions, you can feel free to either enter those into the chat feature below, or you can go ahead and unmute yourself at this point and go ahead and just shout it out. We'll take either one just before we wind things up here.
Was this helpful information?
Yes, I found it very helpful. And I know some other people here, they're sending me private messages. They really enjoyed it.
Oh, good.
Well, if we have no further questions, we are going to go ahead and wrap up. Mary Kay, thank you once again for your valuable time. And